Hey everybody, welcome back. And I am stuck inside in the basement because it's cold and I can't go outside. Plus, I don't want the rubber to be outside. I don't want this to freeze just yet because we still want to use these, keep them nice and sticky for the winter. But I did want to personalize these rims a little bit because the car has got a lot of red accents. And again, talking to Randy Johnson, the guy who kind of helped me out with the color scheme and the whole bit, said, why don't you do something personalized? Because it's all in the details, right? All details. And so he said, normally they cut in right here where it says Forgeline. That is actually, relief cut by a CNC machine, and you can run your finger over it. And why don't you fill that in with some paint, Eric, and then make it red, like to match the calipers and the other stuff in the car, so you can make it a little bit personalized. I said, cool, but here's the other idea. Why don't I have them do it twice so it doesn't look goofy or weird? I just only have one on one side, right? So I had them do it twice, another time up here, and I'm going to fill in both with a little bit of red paint to make this kind of just stand out because it's all in the details, right? And what I did was I indexed this Forgeline logo on the center cap here, which is just pressed in. It just pushes out, and you can push it back in with the Forgeline uh, indentation here and the one up there, so it's kind of in line, right? All about the details, okay? Now, what you're going to need is you're going to need some paint, so I went and got some of this Model Master paint. It's acrylic paint. You don't need very much, so I got two of these bottles, and I really don't think I'm going to use all two of them. I did some experimentation on this to begin with to kind of do the best way possible, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So you need some paint. This is acrylic paint. It's model paint, and I've used this before with other things, but it works usually just fine. What I've also found is you're going to need a little dropper, and I'll show you how to use this, but let me kind of show you what this is all about. This is, you can find this at the hobby store right along with the paint, and what it is a little needle, and what you're going to do is you're going to drop in little tiny bits of paint, and this is how they do it, like this sort of stuff, this relief stuff. They go in here with a little pen and they squeeze a little bit of paint in each one, and that's how they get it. It looks really sharp. The other thing you're going to need is for this one, you're going to need some toothpicks. You're going to need some, I used to use toilet paper, but anything to wipe it off just in case you mess up. The nice thing about this paint is it's really easy to wipe up if you have a mess up, not a big deal. And I've also found that a couple Q-tips, just in case you get a little tiny blurb and you need to get it off, works totally great. So notice that this rim, right, if you look at the rim, this cut here is cut at an angle. So the other thing you're going to need, at least as far as this goes, is you're going to need a level. So what I did was I've got it pressed up against, a couple cabinets here, and it's holding everything up, kind of just, neatly this way, where I've got my stack of tires. So it's not going to go anywhere. And I did my best to make sure that this part right here was as level as possible, and that's as close as I could get it right there. So, it's not perfect, but it's going to be close enough for what we're going to do. And what I'm going to do is, through trial and error, I have found that these relief cuts are not very deep. Maybe just you can feel it with your fingernail, but that's about it. So like these up here are pretty deep, and you're going to be able to use your squirter in here, and you can come in and squirt, 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 and it'll fill it in no problem, and you can get it done really easily. However, this is not deep enough. So I'm going to put, more. If you put more on here, you're going to get it everywhere, and that's what happened. I just kind of, it's kind of squirted everywhere. So what the technique I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little couple drops, and then I'm going to take my toothpick, and I'm actually going to spread it out to all the different lines. So in this case, less is more, okay? So in this case, you're just going to want to spread the paint out rather than, kind of letting it fill itself in like this stuff up here. That's what, they do. They let it kind of just fill itself in, and it'll self-level. Now, the other thing is this paint will shrink. It'll shrink a little bit once it dries. And the dry time is about an hour, give or take. So I'm going to have to come in here, reposition the wheel, do the top, and do both. I'll show you kind of the technique right now. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little needle dropper here, and on the inside, it's a little bit dirty. Get it, there we go. And make sure she's nice and clean of junk. And I'm just going to stick like one or two drops, depending on the size of the letter, because this is not a very big indentation. It's really, really small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to start painting and spreading the paint around. You could let the paint level itself, but I don't really trust the paint. So I want to get it right in the corner there. Steady hand. Steady, steady hand. Get it in the corner there. Okay. And that's pretty good for what I've got going. And I'm going to go ahead, and again, we're just going to do little drops. And this is why I don't think you need very much paint in this case. You know, I originally bought 2 of those tubes, those bottles, and I don't think I'm going to use even a full one, but I got 2 just in case, because they're like $4, you know, who cares? The little paint pen, or the little dropper, was like $4 too, so this is like $12. I mean, this is really easy to do, and this works for anything that's got an indentation. You can go ahead and fill it in, but what I found is this works so much better if you go in and kind of paint the lines yourself. And once it levels, you will have a lot of straight lines because it wants to level itself out, and it'll do it all on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and just, again, little tiny drops, because we don't want to overdo it. You can always add. It's harder to take away than it is to add. So just remember that. The leveling process here is important. So the reason I had it level is so the paint doesn't slosh around, but of course my light does, and it makes me look silly because my light now is moving around. But that's all right. That's all right. Mistakes happen. That's why pencils have erasers, you know? All right, steady hand. I think I might need one more drop. And the nice thing about this method is if you get too much in one area, you just spread the paint around. There we go. It is time consuming, I will say that, but in the end, she's going to look super, super sharp. So I got a lot of paint on this one end, and I'm just going to push a little bit of paint this way, and I'm going to push it this way, just with my toothpick. Remember, all about the details. So we're done. Couple suggestions I'm going to have is if you will get bubbles every once in a while, and you can take your toothpick and you can pop the bubble. But if you don't pop it, it's going to make a little bit of a ripple deal in it, so you got to pop the bubble. Use a new toothpick. They're cheap. Just use one every time because they dry out and it's going to smear and do all sorts of junk. And make sure you clean off your toothpick every once in a while. And, you know, you clean your implement as soon as you're done. I just, again, use toilet paper. This is cheap stuff. I mean, you know, this is not super highfalutin stuff, but it will get the job done and it will look good. So let me show you what a finished product looks like, because right now it's still wet and it's not, the lines aren't perfect yet because I used a toothpick, of course, to brush it in. And you could come in here with a paintbrush, but it just doesn't look the same if the paint is allowed to kind of settle and do its thing. So let me show you a dried version of what this looks like, and it is a massive difference between this and the final product. The seat in here too. But let me show you the final product. I'm going to try and get here super close. Okay, I got my trusty light, but check that out. Look how good that looks, right? The paint decided it was going to settle a little bit. Got a couple of little jagged edges, but otherwise it's going to look pretty good. And I've got on both sides. I've got one up here as well, and I think it's going to look really sharp. You notice the Forgeline logo is also indexed as well to these little accent pieces. So again, it's all in the details. And thanks again, Randy, for the help. Go check Randy out. I'll put a link in the detail to his work because he does a lot of good work and gives lots of great ideas. So D&Z Customs is his place. But I'm gonna go finish these. I'm gonna let the other one dry, which is sitting over there. But hopefully, again, it's all in the details. So this is the stuff, that just looks really cool and trick. And in the end, this is kind of what's going to set stuff apart. Nobody else has got this, and it looks super trick. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, yada, 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 comment, etc., etc. Bye.